My name is Wendy Lea, and I'm the CEO of Get Satisfaction. Get Satisfaction is a customer engagement platform that allows companies of all sizes to engage with their customers online wherever they are. Good mentors have an ability to organize that which they've learned across very distinct areas. And to give you some examples of that. So in the history of a career, you have lots of different jobs and lots of different chapters. And in those chapters, it's really important to say, okay, there were certain skills that created success for me in that chapter, or certain knowledge about a product or a market or about people. And then there's a certain work ethic. So I have always been able to use formulas to organize that which I know or that which I do, such that I can pay it forward and pass it on to others. Teach, if you will. You know, that is the first thing I would say. There's a difference in empathy and compassion. And I find some mentors are too empathetic, meaning they want to walk in the shoes of their mentee too much. And when you do that, you lose objectivity. See, I can't be the mentee. I cannot, there's no way I could have experienced what they've experienced. There's no way, because I'm not them. What I can do is be completely compassionate about the scenario that they're describing, that they might need help with. And I can be compassionate because I have formulas and filters around which to consider that scenario and that situation. I mean, otherwise I just get lost in the story, right? Mentors sometimes get lost in the story, and then they apply their own story. That's not the point. They're supposed to be applying their own experience, but not their own story. When I see a mentor kind of hijack the conversation about when it happened to them, I'm like, oops, time out. Because that's not what it's about. You know, it's about the other person asking or needing help, being self-aware to ask enough to ask for that, and then being able to listen enough to take on that, you know, that advice, if you will. And the mentor being able to not walk in their shoes so much that you lose the objectivity. There needs to be some separateness, right, for the impact to be there. I mean, if you don't have a desire to improve or get better, then the conversation is going to go nowhere, right? I mean, it's just going to be a time waster. So I want them to have a real desire to achieve something beyond what they're doing, right? Even if it's just in performance around a particular area, like presenting to VCs. I want to get better at that. Well, that's fine. Let me mentor you on how to do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be overall performance. So that's one thing. The other is just curiosity aligned with what I would call just a lot of self-awareness. The problem with mentees is sometimes they're not very self-aware. And if they're not, it's very hard for that which you're suggesting to sink in. It kind of falls off like Teflon, like water off Teflon, right? And so I have to check for that. I take my job as a mentor seriously. I expect mentees to be as serious about it as I am. And so I have to check that self-awareness. And I can do that by just asking a series of questions, right? And just to get them to talk a bit about how they perform, how they notice their performance, you know, how they do some analysis on that. And that helps me know if they would be able to soak up, assimilate any ideas that I might have. Well, you know, it's not as hard as it used to be, frankly. I mean, when I was growing up and when I was a young professional, it was hard, right? First, I mean, forget the gender thing, put that aside. It was just hard to find people that seemed to be willing. I think generally speaking, there's an inclination, certainly in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco as well, there's an inclination to help. People want to pay forward that which they've learned. But how you go find them is, first is you ask. You know, like you can go in LinkedIn, you can do searches that way, you can talk to other people that you respect and say, I need help with fill in the blank. I think the more specific, the better, because it's hard to find a mentor that's like perfect in everything. They don't walk around that often, and if they do, they're hard to get to, right? But I think you can ask for that person. You can go in LinkedIn. You can check with your other networks. You can go to events where they may come. Like I'm on the board of Silicon Valley Social Venture Capital, right? And there are lots of smart people there that are sharing their knowledge all the time about philanthropy, right? So if you wanted some mentorship around that, you would go to those kind of events. Not so much to join, but to meet folks that have that expertise. So it's not as hard. You've got to decide you want to do that though, right? And then you have to do a little search, and you have to like test it out, because just because someone's an expert in something that you need help with doesn't mean they're the right mentor for you, right? I mean, that expertise has to be packaged in a certain way so you can be with that person and listen to that person. Otherwise, sometimes even when I'm asking for mentorship, right, I allow myself to feel a little defensive, like, ooh, should I even be asking for that? You know, maybe I should know that, right? Why would, you know, that's going to make me feel less good about myself if I'm asking for help around that. You know, at this stage, I should know that. So you have to be able to have that rhythm with the other person and feel so comfortable, right, and so curious about what they know that you can, you know, take value from that person.